understand where you come from, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, and we'll do it at another occasion. Because
So,
it's not
what we're just talking about here is whether or not to put $10,000 in the line item.
okay, so getting back to, do we put money into economic development? As a council, what are your thoughts? Morris?
I think we should put $10,000 and use it as, if somebody's gonna do this part-time, pay him so much an hour to do it. To do the.
Hey, Peter?
I'm just one of those guys, I'm looking for the biggest bang for your buck, I guess.
Okay.
And, not being briefed, I guess, I don't know. We could be doing better, or?
Okay. John?
We are a small community, and our tax base does not fit our population. The percentage of burden that's on our actual tax-paying members of this town is greater, and not just our town, most towns, because of the demographics of our town and the location and the state of our economic health, not just, again, our town, but our region, our state, and frankly, our country due to COVID. Any way that we can increase the amount of funding that is available through actively seeking and finding these grants, knowing what the town's needs are, which again, you have a great grasp on, Nancy. But there are, like you said, there are some things that you don't have time to look into just because you don't have time. There's only so many, you can only have so many irons in the fire. My feeling is that we need to maximize the amount of aid that we can gather. And in order to do that, I think it's to our benefit to have someone who's looking into those alongside you. Whether that's someone who's currently employed, who is going to help with that. But like you said, if it's a fifth or sixth thing on someone's plate, how much time do they have to dedicate to that? I think we need to move more back towards someone who's dedicated. This is my primary role. I am going to help look for money that is available to help our town move forward and succeed. Whether that means that we have to increase the funding for that line and make it a part-time position, or maybe it is like Morris suggested, a salary or a hourly position that when you're working on these grants, all right, these are the grants I'm working on, I spent X number of hours, and we need to put money in that line to fulfill that payment. I'm not sure which one of those best suits us at this moment, but I think that's the direction we need to head in.
When this was created, it was to help you when you became town manager? Is that when did this $10,000, when did this $10,000?
They got rid of that.
That was
That's one thing I want.
That was created before Nancy's even started.
If you go back to probably it would be the 2016 to 2017 annual report, we don't have that one here. There was in the economic development, there was, I think, audit in the downtown. Dan's salary line, there was nobody's salary. Gary Beck came on as interim town manager from May to June 30th of 2017, and I believe by contract, even though I had accepted the job, ask. But did not begin full-time on July 1st because I was still a library director. That was, there's a lot happening. Gary had in the budget, and was proposing in the budget, because it was a budget cycle, $25,000. And I said, no, I don't want to be straddled with hiring somebody part-time. I don't even want to have to look for somebody. I know what I need to do, and he said, well, I don't want to take it away always, so we put 10,000, and then, assigned it to him twice. I said, okay, well, I could live with that, and we'll try to make it work. So that was, we didn't know how long, that's how it happened. That's how it happened. It was gonna come in at 25,000, and I was the one that put the brakes on it, because it was gonna require me to hire somebody, train somebody, and at that point, I was coming into it and said, I know that's the one part I can do, so I will do that. So now we're at, moving forward, me being ready to move out of being full-time, transitioning here, seeing that, yes, this is something that I can do, but knowing that I'm willing to recognize you can't just walk away and take it with you. So, that's how it evolved. Where we're at is, what I said, assign ones. So, I don't have it all figured out. I do know that Luke and I are spending some time together, that I think we probably still need some help, and we can maybe redefine it this next year. More than saying, this is what we need in order for this $10,000 to be assigned here. These are our expectations and documentation, so, and see how that works. But I would say by next year, once Luke and I, he's still training, once Luke's been through a year of being bookkeeper / us working on many things that he's helping to work on, next budget season is going to be, okay, now that's going to be the time to determine. See, right now I think we can still function, and I think we can assist that function to become better, but I still don't think it's the long-term solution. So that's why we went back and forth with it and said, well, let's talk with you guys, because there are multiple feelings about it. And maybe in the meantime, we can consider even maybe reaching out and finding out if there's somebody out there, like I said, even something like an intern might be something where we choose to, right now I can't budget for it, but if there is somebody interested, just to get a feeling for it, and see if there's some opportunity, and for somebody that might want to see it as a career with us. Because I can tell you right now, if you've been following town managers resigning, economic development directors resigning and leaving, didn't Madawaska lose theirs? A couple of months ago, I think they did. So there's a lot of people looking for that kind of help in their communities. So it's something where I don't think we can just pick somebody off the shelf. But I do think that we've done very well, and I definitely want to answer to what John says, and I agree that we want to make sure the taxpayers, every dollar we ask them for, that they're getting the best service they can get. So I think.
So is it safe to say that you're kind of the supervisor as far as this aspect? You're now as the supervisor, are you happy with what's going on, or maybe it's the council that needs to?
I think that
Hold on, let me finish. Maybe it's the council that needs to say, let's bring this person in, or let's bring two of you in and say, where are we at with this? And
I think
you're right, there's a ton of things. And I'm not saying this other person's not doing, but to build on what John says, you have somebody that's got 5 job titles, and this is number 5 on the job title. To me, getting money is the most important thing we can be doing for this town. Okay? By far. Money is good. And the more we get, the better off we're going to be. So, do we transition this to you now? And you do all of it? Because he's doing some of the duties? Or do we have to sit down with what we have and say, what are you doing to get us, where are we at with this? What, you know what I mean? I just want to make sure this runs like a well-oiled machine.
I think that has to happen first. That's why there's no number here. That has to happen first. Once we decide whether we're satisfied or dissatisfied with the results of that, then we'll come forward with a number to put in that hole.
I agree. Because every,
maybe this person should have been here tonight too?
well, every statement that's been stated tonight is very true and accurate. There's no falsehoods, there's no exaggerations, there's a lot of questions, a lot of doubt between all of us as to whether this position is, there's no question that we need the position. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
No doubt that the function has to happen.
That we need a person in this function. The next question is, we need to sit down with the individual who's currently doing this and ask some serious questions. And where are we at? Get a report card, and then we can go further with the discussion. We're all level-headed here. We all want what, the bottom line is, like I've left it, we all want what's best for the town of Van Buren. There's no doubt. Luke, Nancy, Morris, all of us, we all want what's best. And right now, unfortunately, we're not getting the top performance that we are looking for.
Well, and I want to say this, that I think the way, even how I said it evolved was sort of like
This
the
is all-
manager making a decision before the manager came on, and I kind of changed it. And how it evolved is that, well, even with, this person, I will say this, every single grant that I gave, or asked this individual to write, he did well, did it timely, it was done well. He has brought money to the community. What maybe the expectation wasn't there, and we can talk about with Luke, that it isn't actually a lot of money if I look at the percentage of time just based on the other jobs the person has, it's maybe 1/6. So what is that times the number of hours per week? Depending on, as a percentage of your salary, then that's how many hours per week. Grants don't always work that way. He's done everything I've asked him to do. It's not necessarily gone out and sought more, but then he has a lot of other job duties, and so the question is, there might be somewhat of a setup. I try to give him everything that I can for him to work on, but there's other duties too. For instance, he's doing the reeval that we desperately want done. There was no way I was going to put a grant on his table during the months he was doing that reeval.
You weren't doing that.
Well, and I think, he may not want to wear that many hats either, but he's done everything. I will tell you, he's done everything I asked him to do, so there's no quality loss there. I think
Nancy, I don't want to interrupt you. Okay, but now we're getting into some areas, whatever, that we need to discuss between council and you folks and the individual involved. I'd like to move forward with it, and then this part of the discussion, because we all have different ideas, we all have different perceptions, we all have some preconceived notions of what we're expecting, and so, as chair, I'm going to put an end to this discussion and move on to, if there are any other questions about economic development, please present them now. If not, then we're going to move on to miscellaneous.
Are we revisiting, Mr. Chair,
Yes, we will revisit this.
for the minutes?
Yep, and this will be tabled until we are able to have a meeting between all parties involved, council and the Luke and Nancy and the current economic development director. And this will be done as quickly as possible so that we can move on and develop our budget for the next fiscal year. Okay, moving on to item D, under new business, miscellaneous under classified.
Just look to the bottom of the page first and see that I haven't inserted the county taxes, which is not miscellaneous in the classified, because they have given us a bill. But school, I don't know where they're at in the budget, sure, where they're at, can't put anything there. So those are the last other items that go into the total government expenses. And this is from last year's budget, so you're seeing the numbers. So when I printed that page, when we're done with all, and we actually haven't accepted or approved any of the budgets, but we wanted to get all the way through all of the government ones. so that I can get those all together, and we need to have another meeting to review it, and it can't be far off, because our June meeting's not far off. We're gonna need some numbers there, because that's what we then, look at our revenues, and then figure out our tax commitment sort of thing, so whereas one is separate, and one's currently separate. Okay, miscellaneous and unclassified is all those, different things that don't fit into the department. So, employee recognition, we're adding a little bit of money to that line item. A significant portion of it is kind of our little Christmas bonus that we give for staff. And that eats up about $2,000. We didn't in the last year. Actually, some of our committees weren't very active, but I wouldn't mind getting back and giving committees, thanking them. And having more quarterly get-togethers since we've experienced COVID. We missed our Christmas get-together. We're having something in 2 weeks. You saw an email. We'll talk about that at the end. So we've added there. But as you go down, there's going to be a lot that's the same. The special fund is what we give to the fire departments. It's not for auxiliary per se, but it is for them to do some of the things that they do independently, like the chicken fundraiser for the guys, and that's been there for years. Hydrant payments, I see no increase, it hasn't come along, so that's a formula. That's the same, $171,960.
Is that based on how many hydrants you have?
Nope, it's a formula that is, Skip explained it to me once, and he said, it doesn't even matter if the hydrants are functional. So maybe I'll ask Bill if he can describe the formula, but I don't know if it has to do with population, if it has to do with what. But it's quarterly payments of about 42,000 some, and it's a state-regulated formula for.
PUC.
PUC, and it seems to me that there are 70, I want to say there's like, skip a total with everything, there's 72, 75, 80 hydrants in town.
But if two of them are not functional, that doesn't change the calculation.
No, it doesn't change that, no.
But, that hasn't changed, because I think the formula is still the same. It's been a while since Skip explained it to me. We are primary fund.
It's regulated way above.
It's not how we live.
And of course, one of the things to realize that, hydrants are used, hydrants are used for, by fires. And we actually, we have two water resources, and when there's fire, depending on where it's at, then people tell me, you guys know that you get water from like the Poplar Street one that comes off the reservoir, because we can't drain the drinking water supply. Right? You guys have to,
Wow.
sometimes you say, he doesn't worry
I've
about
seen times you couldn't flush your toilet, we're taking so much water, so I'm not even gonna go there.
But anyways, there's a part of the cost is that, is that if you're using, then that's treated water that's coming out of most of the hydrants, but they sometimes either pump from, bring up pump water, set up a pool and fight from that also. Skip was always, he has to watch the tanks. I don't think we've ever been in a situation of draining any one of our drinking water tanks for a fire, but I know that that's part of the calculation, is the water.
1.5 million gallons is what we use when we leave our fire. 1.5 million gallons. 1.5 million gallons. That's what we figured.
Went to the pump.
That's what we use. That's draining the tanks and skipping it, figuring it out. Yeah, we almost drained the tank.
Yeah, and we were still using, you still had a pool, but it didn't do anything as fast as
Well,
what
no,
comes
they
out.
were filling the pool from other hydrants.
Well, I think the one from Poplar Street though takes it out of the
It's
reservoir.
gravity fed, yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
gravity fed,
there's
so,
no pressure to it,
yeah,
so it's
but that's what you can fill a tank or truck with, right?
yeah.
Okay, so I know it's a formula to do with water, it's not so much the hydrants, I think, so. Good to know that we didn't drain the tanks, and everybody's still there. Streetlights, Luke can tell you a little bit about it, he's talked with Bill, but even though we have LEDs, the rates are a little bit higher for delivery, so I put another 1,000 to make sure because it looks like it's just a little higher. But I think they're looking at.
Yeah, it sounds like they're working on three major projects to benefit the town as a whole, so that could go down.
Yeah, looking at their source and some wiring and maybe being able to reduce our rates, but that's not bad. The biggie is, knowing that we are going to have a budget that no longer $100,000 into our road resurfacing. If we can, on a regular basis, because we are never, ever gonna catch up. And the last 2 years, even the small projects exceeded $70,000 or $80,000, which means our CIP for road is being eaten up. So we either have to start putting some back into that CIP, but road resurfacing infrastructure, we need to, and we should be able to, we'll see this at the bottom line once we get all the budgets, that you're not gonna see an increase in town government, you're probably still gonna see a decrease in our budget, so. That's the biggest change. General assistance is what I budget, what we think we may need. If you look at expenditures, which there is a miscellaneous unclassified expenditures, $3,137. It's been pretty low this year. There's been a lot of other resources out there for people to turn to. But we actually did have 2 cremations that were wards of the state. But it doesn't matter what you appropriate. If somebody's in need and they meet the qualifications, you must spend the money. So I've always tried to make sure we've at least appropriated enough, but it's the one line item after highway that you can overspend if need be. And we get 75% reimbursement. So I just left it the same because I don't think it's gonna break the bank. If we don't spend it, it ends up, we don't spend it. Fire, that's our fire extinguishers. Memorial Day, that's the flags. NMDC, population-based and value-based, so there's just a slight increase. I can't wait for the 2020 census data is used. Hate to say it, guys, our population's gone down. But so are some of our fees gonna go down that are population-based, because the 2010 census number is 2,171, and we know we're under 2,000, so that's the cost of being part of the organization, of which I'm on the board, and which I'm on some of the committees, and which is good for us to be a part of that, so that they're here. We can communicate, interact with other towns, other communities, and we have access to their resources anyways, although not some of their resources. Building demolition. Last year we had 4,000, and I think we actually appropriated that. The way I'm looking at it, it's funny, it seems like a year ago. I put 8,000 there for a reason, but this is, I'll just tell you why, and then put whatever you want there. We did sell a house that we did get $8,000 extra, and we were gonna ask the auditors to verify that and have us roll it over. So it came from the sale of the house. And not tax people, but I think that's up to the council. You know that, that money, we still have residential houses that we're not gonna sell, that we have talked about tearing down, and we talked about funds that we do that. We've been able to sell a few, that people are taking them down, that saved us some money, but I don't think we can do it all. So that number is just because I know that we can match it with money we've already gotten. So I'm not gonna make any proposal on that category, you guys can decide. Because of course the revenues, we put those in before we do our tax now. Boat landing, that's when Rick puts the docks in, I forget if he needs certain from anyone. Communicating Heritage Council, that's our membership. Summerfest, well, Luke and I talked about this. We didn't have Summerfest last year, we had fireworks. Haven't really lined up anything yet this year. Talking about what the future it is and whether to change the name or, and obviously we don't have a Chamber of Commerce anymore. The last couple of years I did Summerfest, and what I believe it's, as we're changing and evolving and going through the pandemic, we did do the fireworks last year. I haven't lined anything up yet. We could choose to do fireworks again. We might want to take it back to the other venue. It was okay. People enjoyed it, but people in town that couldn't drive, it was further away. So, but Luke and I talked about, are we ever really going to have a Summerfest? And I'll just tell you what I learned is that it's the high school classes fundraiser. So if we can find things for them to do without having to do it on one weekend, and there are other events or something to help them fill that need, that's basically what we did. But I can say that that was one of those tasks that ended up being more than without a chamber. So we just left the money there, but we might talk about, you guys can talk about it. Well, let me get through this movie talk. TV station IT. This has been here forever, since we had the Chamber of Commerce. We still do have a TV station. We're not filming our show us because we're not connected to the system to run the feed. Normally, we would be filming, that was part of the pay for this job. IT is anytime we have computer needs, server needs, whatever, in any department. And, back to websites, so we are gonna talk about that aspect. But that's, we're leaving the same amount there, but we would like to see some improvements on our website. Red Cross is blank at the moment because there is no Red Cross office in Faribault anymore.
The one in West Allis is remote.
Yeah, but it sounds like they may be coming back, you can't really get an experience.
Right, and actually, we found out that our last year's check was not cashed, so we're not sure if that's something that got lost in the transition, so we're not sure that we want to budget if there isn't a local, that was a request. So we just left it blank, we'll have some phone calls in and see what's happening, as that was an organization, that assists people when they have fires or floods and whatnot, but we don't know if we currently have anything happening up here, so we just didn't know what to do, because I'm sitting with an uncashed check from last year, not sure.
So where is the nearest Red Cross?
Bangor.
Bangor.
It's, we've heard some things, but I'm not sure, because I think somebody changed jobs and then they had to close the office, so. We're trying to get some information in the next week, believe me. Maine Veteran Cemetery, we always send out, we do have vets in that cemetery, it's just a small token. ACAP, same on our population base, our population hasn't changed, so that's what they ask for. Catholic Charities, food pantry, agency on aging, those are the same. Miscellaneous expenses, a lot of that there, even though we didn't spend it this year, so I'm not a big miscellaneous person. Don't put it where it doesn't need to be, but it does give some flexibility, that's up. And leave accrual is what you set aside for paying people who retire and you have to pay their vacation time. You're not supposed to pay it out of your budget because you haven't budgeted for it, so I've increased it so that we had to pay out for May, we did pay out when he left, and that ate up some of it, and so it's one of your liabilities you should make sure you have, because if there isn't any money in the budget, if, let's say Joey's gonna take a payout. Mike's not taking a payout. Mike's gonna use his vacation time, so we're gonna pay through the budget. Joey wants to pay out, so we're not gonna take it from the recycling budget, we'll have to take it from the leave accrual. So it's just something you always put back. So I'll leave it there, and you guys ask questions, talk about these line items, what your thoughts are. There's usually not a lot going on here, but it is
The legal accrual is big enough.
I didn't bring the general ledger with me. Yes.
Okay, you're saying that Joey's taking the payout.
He's gonna take the payout, and like I said, I'm not taking the payout, so we're not technically completely leaving. We're gonna work.
Mike is gonna work his.
Mike's gonna finish up his hours, taking it out of our budget right now, and just taking vacation, and I think we can cover that, because we know general government may have some savings down here.
Okay, so we do have.
We could pay him out of the accrual if we thought we were gonna overspend our appropriations, we could do that, but it's usually when you write that, you leave, is separate from employment completely, and then you have to send them within 2 weeks, I think.
Okay, so we have a.
Bureau of Labor requires to pay them.
We have an employee at the highway department that's doing us.
They don't have very much, vacation.
Okay.
It's gonna be a payout, but when somebody's only worked for a year.
Okay, so this amount is more than adequate to cover us?
Yeah,
It's
there
probably not very
might
adequate,
be years,
but
there might be years when we don't pay anybody out, but it doesn't hurt to build it up.
Okay.
Because you don't normally appropriate it in your general budget, so you should build up a pool so that you don't get.
Again, I guess.
I mean, you could go.
And I echo it, is that enough?
Well, let's, what I'll do is, we'll look at the general ledger, see what the leave accrual balance is, figure out,
Yeah.
what Joey's draw is gonna be on it, because like Nate's was like 5,000. But we maybe didn't have a draw for 10 years, we might, so I know that it's not zero, but it's a good question, it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Because it doesn't get spent until that, it sits, it doesn't go anywhere.
Because I remember at one point in time, that there was there was like double digit figures. And then we had an employee who did take the legal cruel and it pretty much drained it. And, I just don't want us to be, for the town to be in that position again.
You know, the town policy says that the person's not to receive 240 hours of reserve.
So,
So what, you know, if we had 3 people leave it, actually built up that much leave time. Looking back at the numbers, I looked at them all last week, and we don't really have anybody that close.
okay, good. All right, I just, like I said, Dad, we'll join, just to make sure we have enough.
Like, yeah.
Okay, any further discussion about miscellaneous and non-classified?
Well, I'd like you guys to talk about the Summerfest and talk about, what are your thoughts there? I mean, this is your
Well-
opportunity, you just kind of,
I just wrote a note to John, sharing it. This is an idea, and it's just, as you know, I think outside the box. Should Summerfest maybe be moved over to the Recreation Department as one of their assignments to promote something in the Recreation Department or in some activity? Or maybe should that be under Economic Development's responsibility? If you look at, I hate to compare us because it's unfair, but if you look at Pascal, their Economic Development Director is organized at Fiddlehead Festival. That was not done by any outside organization other than through the Economic Development. This is something maybe later on, and I'm just throwing this out for consideration and thought. Maybe it's something that maybe the Economic Development should take on as part of their duties. Maybe it's something that Recreation should take on in the future, once we get all settled with that, as part of, there's a program to entice to entice everyone. It's not just necessarily the children. Not, you know.
Yeah, I think what Nancy's and my discussion was about, you know, maybe we don't need to call it Summerfest, we just need to come up with something new.
Something new or
We can
something
move
different.
in, but do something different, more, something for the community, but something that maybe doesn't fall on the old Summerfest.
You know, I don't know, it's just, this is a needing discussion all by itself.
well, I think one of the things that I came, what's happened, and my inheritance of it, you guys will remember, it used to be 2.5 days or 2 days. Big thing, right?
Yeah.
Parades, all that kind of stuff. And that's a lot to really pull off. And then, all kinds of activities, and closing down Main Street, and things have changed, like, there's not many businesses on Main Street. So when we said, well, on Main Street, you know, why are we using Main Street? It's not like this is open and that is open and this is open, people move further away. But then it came down to like 2 days, and then it was like 1 day, and that's really what it's been, is 1 day, and it could be Saturday. In the last 2 years, both times